So, hello everybody, welcome back. I hope that you find this information helpful somehow and also kind of hopeful somehow. And this one is going to be um, weird and it might be scary, but don't despair, you know, um, because usually it's darker before it gets, dawn. So, grab your coffee. And I do remind you that I have created a Telegram group for talking about topics like this one and others from April, May, and June of 2022. The conditions for joining will be down below. I hope that this is interesting and that you share the information if you find it attractive to other people. So thank you very much. And this one, it's like I said before, I'm a teacher. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. I just happen to do a lot of research. I also happen to read a lot. I also happen to understand things by certain logic, which is kind of difficult for other people. So I'm going to start by telling you the following. There is international commerce or international businesses. The difference between the two is that businesses is related to people, relationships, and politics. International commerce is different. This one is based upon two people selling something, buying something, and that's it. So when you're buying something and selling something, you might not necessarily be aware of certain regulations that may or may not be in place in the other country. The person that is getting the merchandise is the one that has to understand their own regulations. So there is a lot of laws that have been created to make sure that this trade between companies and between countries, it's kind of fair. At the same time, these companies might be the same company. It might be that you are a company in the US that is producing something in Mexico, and you need it to come back to the US. So at this point, you will have relationships in terms of commerce between Mexico and, the US. So this, is very difficult to do because you have two countries that speak two different languages, that have two different, laws, two different ways of handling businesses. If you don't know what I mean, then you should see somebody who is Latin versus somebody who is Japanese versus somebody who is from Russia. The three of them sitting together trying to do something. First of all, the Latin person will probably be late. The Russian person is, I don't know if they are always late or if they are always kind of on time, but I can tell you that it might be an issue. And then the Japanese person is going to be on time and they're going to be precise and they are going to, to try to get to understand things, and they will not say yes or no. Latin people, if they show up to the meeting and they don't like you, they will shut down the business and that's it. They will hate you or love you. And if they don't like you, they will make it impossible for you to negotiate with them because they don't trust you. And there is no reason for it. It's just, yeah. Also, some people will do this by, drinking and other stuff, and it's insane. So when you are negotiating things, one of those things that you need to take into consideration is how are you going to pay for this? And this is where commerce comes in. You need banks, you need some sort of currency, and you also need some sort of confirmation in terms of how the money is going to be delivered. Because it's not the same you paying by check, several years ago, rather than paying by a transaction that is online. Because you might be doing businesses in certain places in which online banking is just not possible. So you might need to deliver the money in cash and cash only. And also, if you are doing commerce, you will also need extra cash to probably pay for bribes and to pay for the merchandise to be able to get it, because otherwise it can take years, and I'm not joking, years for you to get the paperwork so that you can take something out of the docks, depending upon where you are. So this commerce needs to be done in a way that it's is regulated somehow, because when you're dealing with international containers and international things, you are also dealing very likely with drugs and human trafficking and animal trafficking, which, by the way, that market is billions of dollars, billions, because there might be people that are in the U.S. and they would like to buy white animals that are nearly extinct and they are in Japan, for example. So it's insane, all of those things. And like I said, human trafficking is a very big issue. And then you may also have illegal medicine, because the merchandise that you are buying is counterfeited or is expired and then just relabeled. And there are a lot of things that influence international commerce. And at this point, the most important thing is what currency will work. So the U.S., in the beginning, it was Britain. Great Britain used to send money everywhere because they were the big empire. The Romans were the big empire first, and they paid everyone with salt. So that is the word that salary comes from. You traded stuff and you always got salt. And then they created, I think it was in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken, they started creating the first coins. The first coins that were able to tell people that, they have valued because they had somebody's face printed on them. And the person that was printed on the coin was meant to pay you the value of the merchandise based upon the value of the coin. And you trusted the coin because it was backed up by the popularity or the word of someone who was clean. Somebody that you went and said, hey, I have this coin, it has your face on it, and it says 10 salaries or 10 something or whatever. And you just went to them and they said, yeah, that's my coin, and yes, I will give you that. And it was clean, meaning it had value because the person that was providing this was associated with integrity and great value. Then they did it in Great Britain, and then that's why they did it with the queens and the kings, faces and stuff like that, and it was important. And then they did it in the U.S. When they did it in the U.S., it was different, because they started doing coins, but at the same time, then they had the Independence War. When they had the Independence War, there were two types of bills that were going and coming everywhere, which was the current U.S. dollar, and then there was another currency that was defeated, that was supposed to be paid in case that the other side won. So it's kind of like you have two currencies that are competing against each other, because whoever is backing it up is the one that is supposed to pay you out. So, it's kind of like, okay, I have two pennies, from Great Britain, and one of them says Queen, I don't know, let's say, Queen Elizabeth, but there is a civil war, and people think that Queen Elizabeth is the next thing, but then, her sister shows up and she says, oh no, I am the queen, so she's going to print, the face of her. So Queen Carolina. So, when you have, they will print this, and then if you take the one that says Queen Elizabeth, then Elizabeth will pay you. But if it has the face of Carolina, then she is the one who is supposed to pay you. So it's kind of like that. That also happened in the US. So that means that currencies in whole history, they really never ever had like a real comparison to anything. Everything was based upon the value of the integrity of the person or the organization that was backing it up. And so, when people that, in fact, during the Civil War in the U.S., there was stores that had a lot of bills that were from the U.S. dollars current, and then there were another ones from the other side, and they were expecting to get paid either way. And sometimes people even, ask for the two currencies because they don't know which one is going to have the value. Now, this is extremely important to understand. So, if you are a merchandise in the store and you don't want to get involved into the politicians' things, then you need 1 penny to eat the ice cream, to sell the ice cream. Then the person shows up and says, I have 1 penny from Queen Elizabeth. And then you're like, yeah, but I don't know if Queen Elizabeth is going to pay. So you need to give me 1 from Queen Elizabeth and 1 from, Queen Carolina, in case that, Carolina turns out to be the real queen, and she is the one who is going to be in control of the money. So what happens is that you can always have 2 sources of backing up the money. And when you have 2 sources backing up the money, then people will very likely have to pay twice for the same thing to get it, or they will just stop trusting both of those bills altogether, and then they will change into something that they can actually relate to. Because if there is something that most people agree upon, is that everyone hates politics and nobody wants to get involved in that thing. Everybody's like, politicians are corrupt, nobody wants to deal with politicians or whatever, and yet it's like it's like people when they hate to drink water but they need it, and they're like, no, I don't drink water, but yeah, I know that I need to drink water, kind of like that. So we hate politics, but we do need it. And so this is currently happening right now with the international system for paying. So let me explain this. Long time ago, like I said, the US won, so the US dollar was established, and then people started trusting the US dollar. By the way, there was a time in the 1960s and the 1960s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, in which the Venezuelan bolivar was also so trusted that people got Venezuelan bolivares for retirement. You trusted that money so much because the government in my country of that time was so it was like spotless. There was no corruption. It was like you going to Singapore or something like that right now. It was insane. There was no corruption, no nothing. It was a dictatorship, by the way. But it didn't matter because the point is that you could trust that thing because it was spotless. And when something is spotless in terms of how you deal with things, then is stable and everybody wants it. And so, at that time, people in the 1960s and 70s, people started getting Venezuelan bolivares for retirement and all kinds of investments, and they also started betting on the US dollar. When that happened, they also saw an explosion in terms of the need for energy. When that happened, the United States decided to expand towards the other countries and use their currency as a face value, because they were, it was like every time that somebody saw the US dollar, they saw the American dreams in terms of technology. And everybody who saw the Venezuelan Bolivar saw their retirement and saw the life of adventures, kind of like Indiana Jones. So, depending upon which one do you wanted, you invested in the Venezuelan Bolivar or the US dollar. However, Venezuela already had energy and everything else, because, like I told you, we just threw a rock into the middle of the soil, and there will be oil going out. It's insane. So my country didn't have any problems in terms of things that we needed. We needed investments. We didn't need materials or mining or anything like that, because we already have all that. But the US didn't want to touch their resources. Instead, they wanted to take resources from other countries, and at the same time, they wanted to establish their currency as the new global currency rather than the British pound. The British pound was always the most sought after currency, because everybody trusted the power of the British government and the British queen and things like that. It was kind of like a traditional thing. So you were having three kinds of currencies going all at once, which was the Indiana Jones ones. That one will be mine. Then you had the US, which was the promise of technology and the new land, and then you had traditional, which was the British pounds. So they went to Europe, and then they went to Asia, and then they went to the Middle Eastern and everything else, and then they decided to take oil from the Middle Eastern because the Middle Eastern areas could travel through Europe. And Europe was seen as a stable thing. It was kind of like growing the same way that the US was. And so there was a lot of politicians in this part, and there was a lot of pressure. And there was a lot of, I don't know how to put it, but it was like a blackmail kind of situation in which the US dollar decided that they were going to pay for oil with their currency, and they promised the people that were selling the oil, like Saudi Arabia and all of those countries, they promised helping them in terms of technology, helping them in terms of construction, helping them in terms of teachings, helping them in terms of stability, because these people were like tribes that were fighting all over. So they were going to give guns and stuff. They were going to provide stability by choosing one, and then it was going to help everybody else. So it was a very political, weird situation, but they managed to create the US dollar as a base for everything. At that time, the US dollar was called the petrodollar. Petro meaning the oil. So everything was based upon how the US wanted to pay for what these countries had. By the way, these countries had almost zero leverage against them, because it's kind of like, okay, I have a house that is completely mess. I have family that is fighting with me all over the place. I have nothing, but I have the US who is backing me up, and then I have stability, and I will have education and several things that I didn't have before. And so all I need is to sign this, and then I'm giving up the resources in my house, but I will keep the house, and I can do remodeling in my house, and then I don't have to deal with family issues inside my house and stuff like that, sort of like that. So but basically I just gave out my sovereignty in certain ways. And this created a lot of political tensions. Of course, because like I said, commerce is one thing. Because if you're saying, okay, I don't want to deal with US dollars anymore, how about I start dealing it in euros? Because, right now, all of the things that, that I'm producing, the oil and everything, they have to go through Europe. So why do I have to pay you in US dollars when I could just pay you in euros? So they started fighting, and it was insane. And of course, there were laws that were pushing this into making it only the petrodollar and stuff, and it was a bad decision. Here is why. Because there was a moment in which the US dollar, the amount of bills that they had, let's say that you have 10,000 bills. And because that is kind of like the market, you are expecting it to grow and stuff like that, and so you're printing 10,000 bills, and then you're giving out half for the countries that are selling the oil and everything else, and then the other half you are leaving it to consume internally within the US citizens and everything else. But the thing is that the international commerce wasn't just oil, because then all Europe also wanted to deal with US dollars. Then Japan also wanted to deal with US dollars. Then China also wanted to deal with US dollars. If you have 10,000 bills for 20 people, it's not the same as you having the same 10,000, but now you have 50 people that want the same 10,000. So the Federal Reserve started printing money like crazy, because they needed to cover all the international markets, and then the national market, and then emergency markets, and then the international banking, which is insane, because you were meant to deal with one kind of like one-to-one, but now you're dealing with 50. And so things got out of control like insane. At that time, the U.S. The Federal Reserve, they were kind of, they were doing it with careful. They were doing it kind of okay, because if you reprint this thing, then your U.S. dollar will have no value, because the more that you print, the less that you are going to value. Because it's like, okay, it's something that everybody else has, and then it's kind of like, yeah, I don't want it anymore. Or and then you also have the uncertainty that other countries might choose not to deal with their currency in terms of international. But let's say that China wants to deal with Japan, and now they don't want to deal with US dollars. They will rather go with the yuan and the Japanese yen. They don't need to have the US dollar in the middle. And so this is kind of like, okay, so I had 10,000, so I'm printing 50,000 to care of this, but now I don't need 50,000, but I need 40,000. So, going up is one thing, but going down is another. Because going down means a lot of hyperinflation. Not just inflation, but hyperinflation. And this thing will affect all kinds of international markets. Get me so far? Because obviously people will just say, hey, I'm dealing with China and I am in Japan. Why do I need US dollars? Or, like I said, I am in Saudi Arabia and I am sending, oil to my country, to the other country that is next to me, my neighbor. Why do I have to pay my neighbor in US dollars if the US is so far away? Because, it was kind of like a deal that thought it was good at the time, but now it got out of control. It got out of control quite bad. Because on top of this, every time that the US had issues internally, like bubble housing or whatever bubble they had in the financial market or whatever, they also needed to adjust interest rates. But how do you adjust interest rates when you have problems inside your house and then also outside of your house? And then you also have problems with your neighbors and you're trying to control it and you can't, because now there is too much. You can't control your house, your neighbor house, and then the entire block. You just can't. It's impossible. I mean, come on. You have you ever tried dealing with a fight with your husband or wife, and this is one person that you swore that you were going to love and care and everything else, and sometimes you just want to beat them, kind of like that. And this is just one to one. So try to imagine you putting together a deal with literally hundreds of people that have different personalities, different languages, different things, and everything, and all they had in common is that they don't know what to do with the US dollar. So then they said, okay, how about we put politics before before the economy? So how about we put politicians, and we fix this mess by making this or making that. So the politicians kind of made things smoother and better for a while, but they didn't fix the problem. So what happens is that, like I said, countries are figuring out that you don't need the US dollar to deal with China and Japan, because you don't need an intermediary. China is big, Japan is also big, then why deal with US dollars when you can just pay me? After all, I mean, come on, Japan and China are kind of close. So, and they will always be trading, by the way, because they always have been trading forever, since they are a country or whatever. So, it's like, yeah. So they have decided, there is a group of countries called BRICS, as in Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I forgot the other countries, but its nickname is BRICS. So these BRICS countries, they decided that they want to pay their debt in the US dollars. So meaning they want to pay back the US dollars that they have. They want to give them back to the US so that the US can get them and they can reduce their own supply. So it's kind of like, okay, I have your money, I owe you money, so I'm giving you your money back, and I'm going to start a new relationship with India and China and all the other countries without your currency. The thing is that will mean that the US is no longer going to be in control of the global commerce. However, here's the deal. Why will you want to be in control of the whole global commerce? I mean, like I said, it's a big mess. And you shouldn't be in control, because if you're trying to control things in your neighbor's house, your own house is going to go on fire. Because you can't do two things at once. You either deal with your own inner market or you deal with the outside market. You can't do both, because your neighbor's house has different things, different plumbing, different painting, different people inside, different pets, different grass, different access to water, different everything. You can't compare them. You just can't. It will be kind of like me comparing Venezuela with Japan. What? No, not happening. I don't care. I mean, they are both Earth, but they are definitely, the only thing that I can tell you that we have that are the same is that Japan is in the planet called Earth, although, some people might argue that they are not from planet Earth. Some people might argue that they are actually from another planet or something, because going to Japan is like you going to another galaxy. And Venezuela is also in planet Earth, because other than that, it's like no. Oh, and by the way, we both have shorts because we both have access to the sea. But other than that, no. So it's kind of like that. So, I mean, even if China was trying to do that right now, I can tell you that they probably will not be able to manage that. Because, like I said, even if you manage to put yourself into the position that the US dollars used to be, now what are you going to do with your Indian market? That means that the Chinese people are going to deal with all the things that the US had to deal with, which is bad. Because every time that the Chinese government prints more money, then China inside will have inflation. So you're fighting both sides. So how do you deal then with the international commerce? So what happens is that these BRICS companies, they started with Russia and they said, okay, I'm going to pay you your money. And then they are like, sorry, you do not have access to my US dollars. And then, Russia is kind of like, yes, I do. And no, I'm sorry, the banks deal with US dollars, and we are not allowing you to get US dollars so that you can pay the US dollars. So Russia is kind of like, okay, so basically I want to pay you, I have the money to pay you, but you're not allowing me to pay you because you know that I no longer want to deal with your US dollars. So what am I supposed to do? And then, the US ask people from Europe to support them, and say that Russia cannot pay the debt in US dollars or in euros or anything else. Basically, they want to go after Russia because of the war or whatever. Like I said, politicians. It doesn't matter what side you're in. If you want to try to maintain things neutral, you will understand that they are fighting and they are not allowing each other to pay. So if you don't allow each other to pay, what happens in the economy is that both sides will be cut out. And if both sides are cut out, then both sides are losing. And both sides will experience very short hyperinflation and very short, like a big debt or of lack of resources of all kinds. And this is going to affect Europe before anything, because obviously between Russia and the US there is something called Europe, which is the if you put them in a map, basically Europe is in the middle. So this is going to go insane. So what happens is that Russia and the BRICS, they said, okay, this is going long enough. We are going to change into something that every country can have access to. And let's say, what is that? And then you guessed it. That means gold. That means that the currency that is going to be used from now on will be based upon how much gold you have. If you have 1 gram of gold or 1 ounce of gold, and you have 100 bills, printed, then that is your value. 100 bills for 1 ounce. If you have 1 ounce, but you have, 50 bills, then 50 bills is the new price of the currency that you have. Meaning, if I go to Russia right now and I take the currency from Russia, and I say to the banks in Russia, I want my gold, they will give you exactly that gold. They are not going to give you promises of a future. They are not going to give you anything. They are going to give you exactly what amount of gold they have, based upon what they have printed and based upon how much gold they have. They can't lie, because that one is like, I have this is what this is a cost, that's it, nothing else. So Russia is doing this, and a lot of countries are backing this up because they are fed up with the fact that all international relationships are being kind of blackmailed in a way by the international system, which is creating a lot of hyperinflation. Because like I said before, when this was created, it was 10,000 for 2 or 3 things, and it was kind of okay. But now it's billions. It's literally billions and billions, and it's just insane. So this has created another issue, which is the fact that if nobody is going to go with the US dollar and everything else, then the US dollar will only be worth for internal market for the US and several things that you are going to need to import and export, which means that you're going to have a lot of rejection towards that currency. But at the same time, this also means that the Federal Reserve will need to they are kind of like have to answer to a lot of people, as in where is their promised value. Now, their promised value, it was kind of something that it was on the air, it was understood, but nobody had actual writing on how much that is, or how this is going to be paid. If I go to a bank and I said, I don't want my bills anymore, I want the actual value. Now, the actual value, like I said, you go to the bank and they're going to tell you, future. And then you're like, no, I don't live in the future. I live here. I live in the present. So what are you going to give me? And then you will think that they have the gold reserve in the Fort Knox or whatever it is, but that doesn't even cut it. That is not enough to even cut it, because they also have a lot of currencies that are printed based upon gold that is supposed to be in a mine, but nobody has actually gone to the mine to even get it, which means that it's paper gold. So you might go to the bank and they will give you a paper gold saying you can you can go and withdraw this gold in this mine when they are done in 5 years from now. And then you're like, what? I need my money now. Yeah, kind of like that. So this is why a lot of people have decided that they are not trusting gold or anything like that. They will rather just deal with something that is better, so they will go with cryptocurrencies. The problem with cryptocurrencies, like I said, is that it's something that it's in the air, and it's like you going to the bank and asking for the value, and they give you a paper gold. You know, it's not gold. It is not something that you can touch. It's not something that it's already set. It's not something that you can even trade right now, because a lot of people, if you were going to trade cryptocurrency, it will take time. It will require internet. It will require equipment. It will require passwords. It will require, a lot of things, which, is just not done yet. So right now, the Federal Reserve, for all I can tell, is in big, huge, trouble. And I don't think that they are working anymore. Because if they were working, they will have to answer internationally to too much. And they will also have to answer to their own people, as in the US people, that will ask them, why are they paying so much interest and everything else for money that it's supposed to be, free of these things for them? And so, nobody tells you that this is going to change into a new quantum system. As far as I can tell, there has been over 10 years or 20 years, I think 20 years so far, of a new currency for several countries and everything. And as far as I can tell, the name was OTC or Americio, as in Americans. So I think that the Europeans will have another currency, because they're also going to change the euro. And this one is not going to be based upon the value that the government says or whatever. This one is going to be based upon an artificial intelligence that will determine this based upon data that is actually correct. So this one is not going to be handled by humans that can corrupt the system or can make mistakes or whatever, but rather this quantum thing is going to be different, and it will be available for everybody, and it's going to be in a new currency, and it's going to be backed up by gold and by other things that each country can offer. So you can offer oil, you can offer gold, and you can offer diamonds, and you can offer other things, and I do not know what if you live in an island, I do not know what an island can offer, but it will depend upon, I don't know, because for all I know, you might be the paradise for rich people, and the rich people will leave you there gold and diamonds, for all I know. So I don't know. But it will depend upon the resources for each country, and this is going to be huge. And in fact, right now, by the way, like I said, don't believe me. Just don't believe me. Just check it out for yourself. Right now, there is in Washington, there is, they are shutting down they are shutting down several areas and several areas of parking and everything near the Federal Reserves. And the reason for that is that, like I said, that they are trying to figure out what they are going to do in terms of the value that they have assigned to each bill that they have printed, because I think that more than half of the bills that are printed for the US are outside the US. And if those bills come back to the US, this is going to destroy the economy of everyone. I don't mean just the US, I mean everyone's economy. The reason being that you will never be able to trust anything anymore. Because some people will trust crypto, other people will trust gold, and other people will trust the yuan or the Japanese yen or the euro, or some people might even keep trusting the US dollar versus others. And so now the commerce will be done differently, because you will not know which one you want to pick. So it's kind of like you managing 5 different bank accounts with 5 different banks, and have, relationship with 5 different banks, and I mean, come on, you are at home and you can't keep up with one bank, let alone 5 or 10. So that's why, there has been a development of this quantum banking system that will be done by artificial intelligence that is way beyond what we can expect or whatever. This one is also going to require a little bit of a transition time. But at the same time, this means it will be helpful, because now you won't be able to experience inflation or hyperinflation, because this AI will not allow it to happen, because they're actually going to correct it. And I do not know how, but this is an AI, so I'm guessing that they will have a plan on how to do that. So if you're thinking that, the currencies are bad or whatever, then, may I suggest that you talk to your financial advisor, as in what to do in case that all currencies in the world are completely destroyed, because they will be. By the way, our currency, as in the Venezuelan bolivar, has been destroyed, and we are still here. I mean, it hasn't been a picnic, but we did have the US dollar to back it up. But right now, I can tell you that the US might have other things to back it up, like the gold, and the US is one of the richest countries in the entire planet in terms of natural resources and stuff like that, and also in terms of human value, because the US has always been, and it will always be, a country that produces the best support system for entrepreneurs, and mostly for inventors. I mean, come on, if it wasn't like that, then I do not know why people from all over the world will go to the US to get education, and to also stay there to patent their things, as in they don't do it in their own countries. So that has more value than anything, because at the end of the day, whoever has the best tools and the best toys and the best cool things are the ones that are going to get the attention for everybody else, because they will be the social thing. And remember, we are social beings. We are not machines. Despite the fact that we might be governed by an AI, we are not AIs. We are social beings. So, and the US is very, very good at it. And so, So I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can tell you right now that is very helpful, because at least if you get money right now, you will know exactly the value of that money, and nobody can take that from you. Meaning, if you are making $100, now it will be the same as you making $100, 20 years from now. And I do not need to tell you that that has a lot of implications and a lot of things that are hopeful and awesome. So, just, I don't know, talk to your advisor, and then, figure things out based upon, what you are researching, and based upon, the expectations of your realities and your country. So, thank you for watching. Hope to see you again soon.